And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Today we talk about, sacrifice. We talk about entitlement America versus America that saved the world. Let's get to your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, as we take a look at a few things. By the way, don't forget the Kevin Miller Cash Code. Cash Code Word of the Days, also at 605-805, and let's see, where else? At 305 with Sean Hannity. Quickly to Mike Berry, joining First Liberty Association, talking about the free exercise of speech. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what's going on when we're talking about freedom of religion, not freedom from religion, with this Colorado cake shop case?
Well, the Supreme Court just the other day issued a blockbuster decision in the Masterpiece Cake Shop case. A lot of critics are saying that they're calling it a narrow decision. I think maybe the more appropriate term would be a limited decision, because really the court looked at the facts of the case, and what they pointed to was, look, Colorado has a non-discrimination law on its books, and there's actually a government agency, the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, that is tasked with enforcing that law. And the Supreme Court said, that's all well and good, but when the government is going to enforce its laws, it has to do so in a manner that is respectful of all sides, that's not anti-religious. It doesn't demonstrate anti-religious bias or hostility, but yet that's exactly what the Colorado Civil Rights Commission did to Jack Phillips and his bakery when he declined to make a same-sex cake, wedding cake for a same-sex wedding ceremony. There are some striking parallels between what happened with Jack Phillips and one of First Liberty Institute's clients as well that's made headlines, and probably even in your neck of the woods. Aaron and Melissa Klein out of the state of Oregon owned a bakery, and really almost the same thing happened to them. They politely declined to make a custom wedding cake to celebrate a same-sex marriage ceremony, and there was a complaint filed with the state of Oregon, and the state of Oregon actually penalized our clients $135,000, which forced them out of business. So that's the kind of real-world impacts these kinds of cases are having. Jack Phillips lost 40% of his business as a result of this, and Aaron and Melissa Klein lost everything.
And yet you have people saying this is a narrow decision. I don't know about you, Mr. Berry, but 7-2 seems pretty big to me.
Yeah, that's interesting because that word has been popping up. It's a narrow decision, and Supreme Court litigators, and I'm a constitutional litigator and a civil rights lawyer, and we follow the Supreme Court very, very closely. Typically, when we say narrow in reference to a Supreme Court decision, we're talking about in the vote count. It was a 5-4 decision. We would say, oh, that was a narrow decision, or that was a narrow victory, or whatever. In this case, like you said, it was actually 7-2 in favor of the bakery. But the reason why people are saying it's narrow is that, and I think, again, the better term is probably it's a limited decision. It's limited in its reach and scope because the Supreme Court did not address some of the more far-reaching implications. They could have said all business owners in the country have a right to, so on and so forth. And of course, they didn't do that. And the Supreme Court typically doesn't issue broad sweeping, changes, or they don't declare new constitutional rights or new rules or anything like that very often. They do sometimes, but not very often. And this is one of those cases where they probably had the opportunity to do that and decided not to. People are saying it was a narrow decision or a limited decision. But at the end of the day, the Supreme Court clearly and unambiguously declared that you cannot, in this country, force an American citizen to violate their faith or give up their religious freedom under the First Amendment as a condition for for having a business. You can't make people choose between their faith and their livelihood. And I think that's a good thing for the Constitution and the rule of law.
Mike Berry joining us as we continue on. So where do we go from here, Mike? We appreciate you giving us the truth because obviously the media will not. And that's that's not hyperbole, but as you've just said, you argue these cases, you know all about it. The idea that people are trying to marginalize this is very sad. And then you have the folks in Oregon that have lost everything. You go back to Mr. Phillips. I don't know how he did it. When you're thinking about going up to the Supreme Court, that's not cheap.
No, well, fortunately for people like Jack Phillips and Aaron and Melissa Klein, there are organizations just like First Liberty, and we provide all of our legal representation free of charge. None of our clients ever pay a penny, and that's because we're 100% donor funded, and so we're very fortunate that there are Americans who still believe in the Constitution and believe in what's right, and they're actually willing to give to organizations like First Liberty Institute to support clients like Aaron and Melissa and Jack Phillips and others. And you ask, where do we go from here? Well, I think that's probably the part, the decision that maybe people are a little bit frustrated about is because the Supreme Court did not, really lay out clearly, what its intent is. It really only decided the case with respect to Jack Phillips. And of course, that's the Supreme Court's prerogative to do. I think we are going to see more cases come up. We are going to, Aaron and Melissa Klein's case is not over by any stretch. We still are duking it out at the Oregon Supreme Court, and we may end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. And there are other cases that are teed up before the U.S. Supreme Court that the court is going to have to address in other contexts, because there may be a situation where, here's the bottom line. The Colorado Civil Rights Commission made the Supreme Court's job really, really easy because of some of the anti-religious rhetoric that they engaged in as this case was proceeding. It was abhorrent. They equated Jack Phillips' religious beliefs and the fact that he simply asked politely to not be forced to make this cake. They equated that with defending slavery and the Holocaust. At the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, and the Supreme Court took them to task for that, and rightly so. But the next case that comes along, you may not have somebody saying, "Well, this is like slavery or defending the Holocaust." And so, okay, well, what happens in that case? Does that mean the mere fact that somebody didn't say something outrageous like that? Does that mean that religious liberty loses? I hope not, but I think that's something the court's going to have to decide.
And this really shows you what you're up against, what we're up against. Can you go back to the Kleins? What are they like as people? Because we sit back and we think of these folks and we look at them as objects, if you will, but not people that are making a payroll, that have families, that have mortgages. And, these are folks that deal in the entertainment and everybody loves a cake. Everybody loves to get ready for a wedding, the happy times, not the cold, dark politicization of politics. What are they like?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that. Actually, I don't get that question very often. I've spent quite a bit of time with Aaron and Melissa and their kids, and they're about as American as apple pie. They live kind of on the outskirts of Portland, out kind of in the country. They love the outdoors, and having that bakery was really their life dream. It was something that Melissa just discovered that she was very, very talented. I think that just through making cakes for friends and family members and stuff, and people just said, like, you've got a real talent. You should try something here. So they pulled together their resources, their family savings, and they opened a bakery, and it was really their dream. And they only did custom cakes. So it's not like you couldn't just walk in and say, hey, there's a wedding cake right there in the cooler. Can I take that one? No, Melissa sat down with every couple and went through in painstaking detail exactly what they wanted the cake to look like and exactly what kind of icing and all that kind of stuff. And then she poured her heart into it. And so to have that stripped away from them, one other thing that happened to them, in addition to being penalized $135,000, at one point the state of Oregon came in and raided their bank accounts. And they wanted to teach their kids about saving for money and about even giving to charity through their church. And so they had set aside a separate account that their kids would put money into, and they labeled that account God's money so that the kids could learn about giving through their church and things like that. And the state of Oregon raided their accounts, including the one that was labeled God's money. And in Melissa's own words, she said when they went to the bank that day to make a withdrawal and they saw that it was zeroed out and there was nothing left, she said it was like her breath had been taken away. That was everything they had. And I mean, this has completely devastated their family and wiped them out. And they continue to receive death threats and just absolutely vile things that we can't even repeat here on the air, through email, internet, et cetera. So there's just really a lot of people out there who absolutely despise, I guess they despise freedom and apple pie.
No, you're right, Mr. Berry, and that is the sad undercurrent that the progressive media doesn't cover, the vulgar comments, the death threats that happen for people that stand up for their rights as Americans and their rights as people of faith.
Yeah, that's right. Look, if this country is going to continue to exist as a diverse and pluralistic society, where people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, and different beliefs, and sometimes different beliefs that don't believe in the same thing, we may even have opposing viewpoints. But if we're going to be able to peacefully coexist in this country, we have to be able to do so in a way where all viewpoints are permissible, right? That we don't have people going to the government and getting the government to censor and silence people with whom they disagree. That's the only way we're going to be able to move forward as a nation.
Mr. Berry, if people want more information, if they want to support your group, what can they do, sir?
Easy. Just go to firstliberty.org. You can find out more about the Supreme Court decision, Aaron and Melissa Klein's case, where that is right now. It's at the Oregon Supreme Court. Hoping to go to the U.S. Supreme Court sometime soon on that, and all the other cases that we've got going on.
Well, thank you, sir. You take care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Mike Berry, we'll definitely have to have him back. Marlon in Kuna, sorry about the wait, but we appreciate you holding on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
All right. Mike Berry, we'll definitely have to have him back. Marlon in Kuna, sorry.
Hello, Marlon. Marlon? Well, that was uncomfortable. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. Excuse me. Wow, what a show you're having this morning. And Mike Berry spoke well.
He did, yeah.
If a person can't understand that the baker has a choice, what is freedom in this country? Then they don't understand what our founding fathers were all about or what our country is all about. It's why the world is knocking at our door, trying to get across our borders to live here. And, Kevin, then when they get here, they try to change the United States of America. I don't understand it. We will have people waiting at our border right now. Anyway, I think
look, we're going to call them out. They hate America. They hate what the United States stands for, and their guy, their champion, Obama, did everything he could to destroy, rewire, and reprogram the United States of America, and now we've got to deal with his followers.
Yes, I agree with you. And he still has a lot of power, I believe.
He does.
Yeah. And anyway, I believe that our president can stand next to George Washington, any of our founding fathers, Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan. He can stand next to him. In fact, he has saved this nation. I am so proud of our president. He may not be perfect, but he's close to it.
Well, here's the thing. He will at least acknowledge his shortcomings, and you have other people who, thought that Obama was perfect, and he wasn't. And we go back to all the scandals, Liberty Linda, all the lives that were ruined. And let's just be honest, we can talk now. We're free to talk under President Trump. We were censored by President Obama. He destroyed the lives of many Americans that the progressives in the media will never, ever acknowledge.
Yes, look what happened to the Bundys.
Look at the Bundys, look at the Bakers, look at everyone else. That's where we are.
Well, the wonderful thing is you, Kevin, and almost all of your listeners understand what the United States of America is all about. It is about freedom, freedom of choice, and that's what makes our country wonderful. And, you and I and, most of your listeners do not want that changed. I love this country. I have since I was a little girl, and my grandparents taught me how great this country was. That's what's in our hearts. And so let's keep it that way. And by listening to your show, we can do that.
Liberty Linda, God bless you and God bless America.
Well, may the Lord be with you and watch over you, Kevin. We love you.
We love you, Liberty Linda. Take care.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Coming up next, do you love America? And we take a look at the Americans that sacrifice their lives versus the Americans that are entitled. How do we get it back? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Basically, it comes down to them or us. They're calling us out. We've got a leader that is not afraid to back down. Unlike President Bush and others, let's just all get along. No, that's what the libs, right? And Trump doesn't mind punching people back in the face. That's what we're talking about this morning. Wake up with a punch in the face at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. The Philadelphia Eagles, you don't love America? Good. We don't love you. Get out. Move. You know, it's a lot like work. It's a lot like this. Sooner or later, whether it's your family, whether it's your work, whether it's a habit, you either do it or you don't. If you don't want to stand for the anthem, well, that's who you are. Don't tell us it's patriotism. That's fake patriotism. Never understood that one. Pete in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Morning, Kevin. Something that I wanted to point out on this bake the cake thing. What's going on in both Colorado and Oregon is they are using the state to try to force other people to accept their moral standards and to accept the progressives are trying to force the rest of us to do and to believe and to act the way the progressives want us to. And I think that's what you look at the add the words push here in Idaho. And I don't think that it's so much that they're worried about discrimination in housing or anything as it is they want to be able to have a state law that will let them, they can use that as a hammer for the rest of us to agree with their progressive agenda.
And under Obama, that's what they did.
Exactly what they did.
Yeah, let's go back to good old Obama, because under his regime, you either accepted what the regime did, or Lois Lerner, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, the NSA would all come after you. And, you know, there are a lot of people 5 years after Edward Snowden that don't like Snowden. Snowden told the truth. Snowden exposed them. James Clapper is a liar. And what do we have for it? You know, nothing's changed. They still spy on us without our permission.
And everything they did to deny tax-exempt status to Tea Party, other nonprofit conservative groups, you know, that was the same deal. We don't like your message, so we're going to shut you down.
Well, and that's exactly what they're doing. And, you know, people can rip President Trump all they want, but he's brought us back, and I like it. You know, he's standing up to the bullies in the NFL. He's standing up to the bullies in the media.
And, you know, you look at the NFL and the NBA, and here's a bunch of people that are paid huge amounts of money to play kids' games. I mean, they're playing a ball game. That's all they're doing. And somehow they think that gives them the status and the authority to tell us that America is evil and they don't have to respect America. They don't have to respect what we stand for. And when they say, oh, we aren't disrespecting veterans, I'm sorry, you're disrespecting what a lot of us veterans fought for, died for, served for in the American flag. We're just protesting police brutality. Well, you know, Colin Kaepernick, I don't believe was ever beaten up by the cops. I think he was just looking for a way to stand out.
Colin Kaepernick was adopted by a white family.
Yeah, he lived a privileged life and still does.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, the NFL, the NBA, all those pro sports teams, I think we need to get rid of their nonprofit status ought to just disappear.
Right, that's the deal. Okay, you guys don't want to love America, you don't want to toe the line? Okay, you can start paying your fair shake, and your nonprofit, your monopolistic practices can go out the window, and you can compete in the open marketplace.
Yep, and all the cities that are building a new stadium, every time some NFL team says, oh, our old stadium, the seats are getting a little tatty. We need a new one. The heck with them.
You can get the heck out.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, Pete. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you listening. KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KID. It's funny. I'm looking at the coverage yesterday of the EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt coming in. Great guy. Came on. Did his own thing with us. The only people that he talked to were us. And there's a reason why. You look at this. Embattled EPA chief, protesters, and everything else. And you think to yourself, it's a wonder people tune out to politics. It's a wonder that people tune out to the way things are, because the press just focuses in on the negativity, and they want to tear people down. Here we have a member of the cabinet. The EPA administrator is a cabinet-level position. And instead of saying, look, this is a big deal, Idaho is going to be part of these things, we distrust this. Now, if it had been Obama's guy coming in, look at how he was treated. Anytime an Obama, and oh, that's right, they didn't come here, except when they wanted to be on the blue, because they thought we were nothing more than blue-loving football fans, right? It's crazy. Traffic and weather together at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
I'm just Channel 7's Eric Everett.
Coming up next, a quick break, then back at it, and I mean a quick break. We take a look at America in the past that gave versus America today that feels entitled. Which America do you prefer? Details next with me, Kevin Miller, on 580 AM and 107.5 FM. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, I finally purchased that Stephen E. Ambrose book, Band of Brothers, and I feel like a complete dope. I was a history major in college, taught history, love history. In fact, for many years when I was working my way through life, I would do the overnight security, and that's why I love our friend security guard Mike and everybody that works security or that works overnight. And those are some of the best jobs around. You work overnight. People nobody bothers you. Sometimes you have to make a round. It gets a little spooky sometimes because overnight security, you're not really at a place usually where there's people. So maybe it's an abandoned warehouse. Maybe you have to do these rounds. In my day, they had this D-Tex thing. And, sooner or later it became electronic. In my day, it was like a key thing. And you would go to each station, you would press the key code, and it would tell the box there what time you were there. Now I'm sure they have GPS, which is just crazy. But one of the best summers that I ever spent in my life, no, it wasn't in northern Michigan. No, it wasn't the summer of 69 or 89. I think it was the summer of 88 where I was working one of my many jobs trying to pay my way through school. And it was overnight security. And a friend of mine who said, this is a good opportunity for you, Miller, to educate yourself. And I read about the history of the Third Reich, the Roman Empire, fascinating things, because we never really get a chance to read it. And if you're a reader, good for you. So shame on me. So I purchased it. It was like $11 on Amazon. And that's the Band of Brothers. And when you think of the Band of Brothers, and this miniseries just blew me away on HBO. And it was out in 2000, 2001. And if the miniseries blows you away, chances are that the book is going to be 1,000 times better. Moneyball was 1,000 times better as a book than it was as a movie, and the movie was pretty good. So in honor of D-Day, in honor of those people that served, I just want to share with you a few sights and sounds. I want to get your thoughts on America 74 years ago and America today. America that worked and gave, and America that plays video games and feels entitled.
What made you decide to join the paratroopers?
I wanted to fight with the best, sir.
This is Easy Company, the finest company in this regiment.
Found in one another a bond among brothers. I'm proud to have served with each and every one of you.
You know, who can say we have that today? A band of brothers. A band of brothers that would sacrifice, that would give everything to make a difference. Cindy in Caldwell, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yes, Kevin. You know, I just said to Nehemiah, Kevin, you are the band of brothers. Listen to me, Kevin Miller. You know, I went and rewatched, oh, yes, Saving Private Ryan. You know what? You've drawn a line in the sand. You are the wingmen. You guys out there, because you know what? They can spit and count it all joy when you face fiery trials. Progressivism, statism, that is their small G-O-D God. But you know what? Just like our president, you drew a line in the sand. Just like the other people that are out there purporting, all the men that call in that have served in the service, I am so humbled. I was sitting down at the Veterans Garden yesterday. So don't think that they hate you. It's Pilgrim's Progress, that's another book. That is kind of a thing because it shows where they're at just as much as you. And I'm going to tell you, I have lectured in a Catholic church. I have taught Sunday school once. I have a regenerated spirit. You are on the side of right. You are on the side that God would choose. Their little God religion, they're mean, vindictive. Even that gentleman, I mean, that is despicable. He's calling you a Nazi this morning. That is despicable, yet they can get away throwing out when they have nothing else to rely on, and I'm talking about facts. They always revert to, you're a racist, you're an Islamophobic, whatever have you. But just know, you know what, I'm just putting this right out there because on the Jefferson, I believe it's the Jefferson Memorial, yes it is talking about, if you went to Washington, that God gives us liberty. That's the capital G-O-D God that our forefounders had, that the liberties to secure this nation are liberties that are a gift from God. And you know what? I can assure you, as I would put my little finger and make the cross on my forehead, on my lips, and have God hidden in His Word in my heart, everything that you're pushing back on is for the right. So thank you all for being that band of brothers out there. You know, if you had a problem with something going on in the society, just like that gentleman, that movie Hacksaw Ridge was, he didn't agree or didn't want to carry an armament, but he took 70 men. He did something greater that all our veterans do. They lay down their lives for something greater than themselves, which is this country, the women, their families. So, you know, think it not strange. Stay strong, y'all out there. God's on your side. I just go think of and sing or say the words to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. That is my favorite hymn. So you're on the side of right. Just keep going, and that's what you've got to do. Just like the guy up in Hacksaw Ridge. If you can change one thought, one heart, one mind about this country, that's what you go for.
All right, Cindy, God bless, and thank you for your nice comments.
No, they're just true. Pick up a Bible. I mean, the Bible says, profitable for doctrine, reproof, and correction into right standing. You're on the right side, but you're going to face every fiery dart that's out there. So just keep on, Kevin. I got your back covered in prayer.
God bless you, Cindy. Take care.
God bless you, Kevin. Bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, with a look at D-Day. Here we have the History Channel.
Well, D-Day was obviously the most important single fight of that war. And, of course, had we lost it, there's no telling what the outcome would have been.
Since the American entry into the war, American generals had been agitating for an opportunity to fight the Germans directly. The D-Day invasion of Normandy in June 1944, represented the cutting edge of this offensive.
Essential condition that underwrote the success of D-Day was the fact that Germany had been bled virtually to death by fighting on the Eastern Front for several years against the Red Army in the Soviet Union before D-Day ever happened.
The Germans had been preparing for this invasion as long as the Americans and the British had been, and they had been digging in. And they knew that they could inflict appalling casualties on the first units ashore. Well, somebody had to do it. And so the soldiers went, and indeed, those first units did suffer very high rates of death and wounding.
It's one thing to go on a beach with sand dunes. It's something else when you've got enemy on top of these bluffs. And for some reason, naval gunnery was either off or something went wrong there. They couldn't destroy those gun emplacements.
But eventually, the weight of the invasion took hold. The numbers of Americans, the numbers of craft, allowed the Americans and the British to establish a beachhead. And once they established a beachhead, then they could bring more and more soldiers and equipment ashore.
One thing I don't think either the Japanese or the Germans really counted on was what it meant to come up against a massive capitalist industrial power. The ability to build stuff on a massive scale with massive numbers was just something they hadn't really anticipated.
If you look back at the old photographs and the footage of that armada out there off the coast, I don't think they've ever assembled before or after anything like that.
Eventually, it was the technology, it was the weight of American weapons that tipped the balance. But at the very beginning, it was the soldiers, the ones who splashed ashore, the ones who knew that in the first wave, lots and lots of them would never come back. And those are the ones who made possible everything that followed.
The Rangers who went in first and the waves that came after them stood right up to it. There was more bravery that day than one can hardly imagine.
And, just a moment to think about America then versus America today. America then, we saved the world. America today, we have entitled, spoiled athletes that don't want to go to the White House. Let's take a listen to one of those pampered people, LeBron James. And I go back and forth on LeBron. He does a lot of good work, a lot of charitable work, but this is what LeBron James has said about the White House.
It's typical of him. I'm not surprised. It's typical of him, and I don't know. I mean, I know no matter who wins this series, no one wants to invite anyway, so it won't be Golden State or Cleveland going.
Right. Tell that to the people in Normandy, buddy. Let's go to Julie in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm living the dream and blessed to be a part of your day.
Yeah. Well, I've listened to about the flag and the NFL. On Saturday, Justify is going to run in the Preakness, and there's an opportunity for the Triple Crown. So I called WinStar Farms, and I asked if they would take a lap with the flag if he won. Makes me want to cry. And they said they'd see what they could do. So while these guys take a knee, I'm going to ask that maybe a horse, which also fought in the wars, could take a lap. And that's it.
Well, Julie, we appreciate your patriotism, and thank you for calling.
You're very welcome.
God bless. See, what Julie represents is the quiet, the silent America that thankfully, as the libs scurry away because we have the high ground finally, the silent America that is being rejuvenated. And no, it's not okay to disrespect America. It's not okay to attack the flag. And people say it's just a symbol. I would never say that to a veteran You might get smacked in the face. Not that a veteran would do that, but they have lived a life that none of us could. None of us ever will. You don't have to watch Band of Brothers. You don't have to read the books. Just go talk to a veteran. You know, it's tough to figure out which is the greatest generation. And that's the beauty of being here on Idaho's first radio station, KIDO Talk Radio, 580 AM, 107.5 FM. Is it the one that created our nation through God? Is it the one that fought to save our nation during the Civil War? Or is it those quiet men and women that beat the unbeatable, both Hirohito's Japan and Hitler's Germany? Now, me, I'm 50 years old. I can remember in American history class always waiting, I couldn't wait to get to the history of World War II. I don't know what they're teaching kids today, that America is wrong. You know, the other night I was watching the Spider-Man movie. Not the good one with Tobey Maguire, the new one with that kid. And they want to make it multicultural, multiracial, diversity this. And there's a scene in there in front of the Washington Monument. And the teacher, obviously the stereotypical ill-informed white guy, asks the young lady of mixed descent, hey, are you going into the Washington Memorial? No, I don't go into places that were built by slaves. That's what's being taught today. That's what we're up against, folks. But when you think of America today, do you think of the Doughboys, the Band of Brothers, or do you think of LeBron and the gang? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller on 580 AM, 107.5 FM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So you think about the Band of Brothers. You think about Normandy, what went on. And like, as I've said before, I couldn't wait to hear about World War II. Of course, my generation, we were raised on, remember that show Combat with Vic Morrow and Jason, I can't remember his name, the lieutenant who wasn't as cool as that actor Vic Morrow. And we were taught that America was good, that America was great. And today, we're taught this.
It's typical of him. I'm not surprised. It's, typical of him. And I don't know. I mean, I know no matter who wins this series, no one wants to invite anyway, so it won't be Golden State or Cleveland going.
Most of us learn about D-Day by watching Saving Private Ryan, which, remember, before that, war movies were more like Arnold and Chuck Norris and highly unrealistic. Let's face it, movies still are unrealistic compared to the men that have been there in battle. And they don't talk about it. How many of us have heard the stories of our fathers or grandfathers that did heroic things but didn't talk about it, did not mention it? Why? Because that was then. There was no victimization. There was no this. There was no that, right? And today, we whine and complain, and the press decides to attack good, wholesome people. Whether it's Jack Phillips, whether it's the Bakers in Oregon, whether whomever. And the reaction of the president saying, look, you don't want to be here? Don't be here. We don't want you to be here. Let's take a listen to Chris Matthews here on 580 AM, 107.5 FM.
Unity. Sunday morning is not a time of unity in this country. We go to different churches, unfortunately. But Sunday afternoon, we get along. And it's true in Washington, D.C., in the Redskins, I see guys who are African-Americans get completely into the game. But red makeup, the whole routine, all the Indian music, everything. I got to tell you, it's a united thing. It's a united thing. And Trump has found the one area we all sort of agree on. Cab drivers and drivers, people that don't normally like each other block to block, agree on sports, and he says, let's fight. He knows what he's doing. He wants white guys and in jobbers on cold days with their faces all red at some, Vikings game or Green Bay game. They want them to hate the players. This is what he wants.
The players are the one that chose to hate America by not standing for the flag. It's not the president, is it?
Trump. Am I wrong or am I right? I think I'm right. You're thinking you're the expert. He thinks he's got the white fans. Does he with this? Does he got them?
No, it's the white
he's got
fans
morons,
are
is what he has.
He's got morons.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there we have it. Chris Matthews making sure we make it racial. Lee Joe joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Lee Joe.
Good morning, Kevin. So it being the anniversary of D-Day, I had a guy in my church, a veteran years ago, and he's passed now, but he was one of the men who had stormed the beaches. And I didn't even know this until his funeral, and the things that he'd done afterwards, and how much more service he gave even after that was amazing. He built our church back in the 60s, and even when he found out that he had cancer, he didn't want to be a trouble to anybody. He just decided it was time to pass away. I've got it. My next door neighbor was a mechanic in the army that defeated Rommel in North Africa. His next door neighbor was a pilot off the escort carriers in the Pacific. And my grandfather was a ground crewman for the B-29s on Tinian when they flew to Japan. That generation is the greatest generation. And I think we just can't say enough, and nobody really appreciates what it took to do what they did. I mean, unless you were there, it's just a phenomenal, amazing sacrifice. It's such a gift that they've given us. And, and I look at some of the, some of the rights that the Supreme Court has decided that they can decide what marriage is, when, it's an attack on my religion to tell me what marriage is.
Right on, Lee Joe. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Well, that's reassuring. It's going to get a little cooler. Kevin Miller in the morning. Blessed to be a part of your day. Fox News next. Good morning.